Have you ever noticed how easy it is to borrow, but how heavy it feels to owe? We swipe, we sign, we promise to pay later, but later always comes faster than we expect. Debt feels harmless at first, even empowering, but slowly it takes control. It owns your peace, your choices, and your future. What if the Bible, written thousands of years ago, already warned us about this? What if the wisdom of Scripture could lead us out of debt, not through fear, but through freedom? Let's explore how biblical wisdom still speaks powerfully about money and debt. Debt today hides behind beautiful words: zero interest, easy payment, buy now, pay later. It doesn't look dangerous, it looks normal. But Proverbs 22:7 reminds us, the borrower is slave to the lender. That's not an exaggeration, it's reality. Debt promises independence, but delivers slavery. It controls decisions, delays dreams, and creates quiet anxiety that never leaves. The Bible talks about money over 2,000 times, not because God is obsessed with wealth, but because he knows how money tests the heart. Jesus said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." If debt owns your treasure, it will soon own your heart. The world teaches us to chase comfort, image, and status, even if we can't afford it. But the Bible teaches us to chase wisdom, patience, and peace. God's plan for our finances isn't about luxury, it's about freedom. The first principle: acknowledge God as the owner. Everything we have, our paycheck, our talent, our time, belongs to Him. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." When you believe that truth, your mindset shifts. You stop spending to impress and start managing to honor. Debt often begins when we forget this. We act like owners instead of stewards. And when we think it's all ours, we live beyond our means. But when we see ourselves as caretakers of God's resources, we ask better questions. Do I really need this? Does this purchase serve God's purpose in my life? That kind of wisdom protects us before the debt ever starts. The second principle: work diligently and honestly. Proverbs 10:4 says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." Debt tempts us to take shortcuts, to get what we want before earning it. But real growth, both spiritual and financial, comes through diligence. The Bible blesses effort, not entitlement. When you work faithfully, you build character, and character keeps you from careless borrowing. We live in a culture that values speed. People want results overnight, comfort instantly, success immediately. But God's economy is built on process. He uses time to test our trust. Debt bypasses that process, and often so does the blessing. The third principle: avoid greed and comparison. Many people go into debt not because they lack, but because they compare. They see what others have and feel behind. They want the same lifestyle, even if it costs tomorrow's peace. But Hebrews 13:5 says, "Keep your life free from love of money and be content with what you have." Comparison always creates discontent, and discontent leads to poor decisions. The truth is, contentment is wealth, because when you are content, no one can control you. When your joy no longer depends on what you buy, you've already found freedom that money can't purchase. The fourth principle: plan before spending. Luke 14:28 says, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost?" Planning isn't doubt, it's discipline. Faith doesn't mean ignoring numbers, it means managing them with wisdom. Make a plan for your money before your money makes a plan for you. Budget, save, prepare. A plan gives direction, and direction creates peace. When you plan, you can say no to impulse because you already said yes to purpose. That's the secret to staying out of debt, knowing your priorities before temptation calls. So how do we live debt-free in a world built on borrowing? Start small. Live within your means. Save before you buy. If you can't pay for it today, it might not be time to have it. Build an emergency fund, even if it starts tiny, because a small cushion is better than a large credit line. And most importantly, give. Generosity breaks greed's hold. Every time you give, you remind your heart that money is not your master. God is. Malachi 3:10 says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, and see if I will not open the floodgates of heaven." Giving isn't losing, it's trusting. It's saying, "God, you are my provider, not my paycheck." Debt says, "I need more." Faith says, "I have enough." And that's where peace begins. Living debt-free isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. Freedom to follow God's calling without fear. Freedom to give when others are in need. Freedom to rest at night knowing no lender owns your tomorrow. God doesn't want you living under pressure. He wants you living in peace. And peace starts with wisdom. The wisdom is already written in His Word. All you need to do is live it. If you're struggling with debt today, remember, God's grace covers your past, and His wisdom can guide your future. Start where you are. Make one small change. Pray, plan, and trust that He will provide. Because debt may own the world, but God's wisdom still sets people free. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs hope. And join me in the next episode, Building Wealth with Biblical Wisdom.